Ever since Elena's arrival, the rhythm of our household seemed to shift into an unfamiliar, strained tempo. Luke, who once lit up at the sight of me, now barely offered more than a distracted grunt, his attention perpetually glued to the glow of his phone screen. It wasn't as though his job had become more demanding, it was just as it had always been, if not slightly less so, but something in him had changed the day we brought Elena home, like a switch had flipped, severing the connection that used to bind us. "Another painting today, Hazel, that makes 3 this week," he would remark whenever he caught me setting up my easel, his voice sharp, dripping with disapproval. Once upon a time, Luke had admired my work. He used to praise my talent, proudly displaying my favorite painting in his office, pointing it out to colleagues like a badge of honor. Those days, however, felt like a distant memory. "Yeah, and it's not like I'm spending your money on it," I'd respond, trying to keep my voice steady, my eyes focused on the canvas as I mixed blues and yellows. But no matter how nonchalant I tried to sound, his words always managed to pierce me, leaving a sting that lingered long after the conversation ended. "Could have fooled me," he'd shoot back, sweeping his gaze over the room. "Look at this place, it's like a tornado hit it." I would glance around defensively at the scattered toys, the unfolded laundry, and the crumpled blanket on the couch. They weren't signs of neglect, they were signs of life, of a day spent chasing a toddler, of keeping our home running despite the chaos. "Look, I'm with Elena all day," I'd say, my voice faltering as I tried to keep the frustration at bay. "She's a handful, maybe if you helped out a little." "Help with what? You're home all day, that's your job. I make the money, you handle everything else, that's the deal, remember?" His tone was final, a verbal door slammed shut. "Not my fault you can't keep up." His words would silence me, the weight of them pressing down on my chest, leaving no room for the rebuttals or explanations forming in my mind. And so, each evening would end the same way, Luke turning away with a dismissive scoff, retreating into his world while I remained in mine, silently swallowing my resentment. In the mornings, when he left for work, Elena would tug at the hem of my shirt, her little face tilted up toward mine, her big eyes clouded with confusion. "Daddy mad?" she'd ask, her tiny lips trembling. "No, baby," I'd assure her, pulling her into my arms and brushing a kiss against her soft curls. "Daddy just has a lot on his mind. Come on, help mommy choose some colors." Together, we would sit by the easel, her small hands reaching for brushes while I guided her choices, turning her laughter into the melody that filled the silence Luke left behind. Those moments were a balm to my wounded spirit, a reminder that, even if Luke couldn't see it, my art mattered. Painting had always been more than a hobby for me, it was my lifeline, the thing that tethered me to a sense of self I was terrified of losing. It wasn't arrogance that fueled my passion but the memory of a time when I felt vibrant and sure of myself, a version of me that seemed to slip further away with each passing day. That evening, like so many others, I tried to create the picture-perfect homecoming Luke once appreciated. The table was set with care, the aroma of roast chicken wafted through the air, and Elena was freshly bathed, her cheeks rosy and her hair neatly combed. "Hey," I greeted him as he walked through the door, offering a tentative smile. He didn't return the gesture. Instead, he shrugged off his coat, tossed it carelessly over the back of the couch, and glanced toward the corner where my easel stood. "Still haven't gotten rid of that junk, huh?" "It's not junk," I replied, the weariness seeping into my words. "I'm working on something." Luke opened the fridge, pulled out a beer, and cracked it open before turning back to me with a disdainful smirk. "Looks like a waste of time and money to me. You could be doing something productive, you know." His words stung, but I refused to let him see it. "I am doing something productive," I said firmly, standing my ground. "I'm raising our daughter, keeping our home, and trying to hold on to something that matters to me." He took a long sip of his beer, his expression unreadable. "Call it whatever you want, Hazel," he finally said, his voice dripping with indifference, "but all I see is you making a mess I'll probably have to pay someone to clean up." It wasn't the harshness of his words that hurt the most, I had grown used to that by now. What cut deeply was the casual dismissal of my dreams, the way he seemed to brush off the very thing that gave me a sense of purpose. "Dinner's ready," I said at last, the words coming out like a line in a script I performed night after night. The routine was exhausting, the distance between us widening with each passing day. Yet, in the quiet moments spent painting with Elena, I found a flicker of hope, a small but precious reminder that there was still color in my world, even if Luke refused to see it. I dove deep into Hannah's social media, scrolling through the curated snapshots of her life. Her love for art was undeniable. Her feed was a kaleidoscope of gallery openings, close-ups of luxurious canvases, and selfies with renowned artists. She didn't just appreciate art, she seemed to breathe it, her captions brimming with thoughtful musings on the pieces she encountered. Every post spoke of a woman who valued the arts profoundly, who saw beauty where others might see only paint. An idea struck me like a flash of lightning. What if I created a painting for her? The supplies were already here, gathering dust in the closet, and the urge to do something meaningful stirred within me. This wouldn't just be a gift, it would be unique, something that no high-end boutique or gallery could replicate. The thought of her unwrapping a piece born of my hands, my time, and my heart felt oddly exhilarating. It wasn't just fitting, it was necessary. As the vision for the painting began to take shape in my mind, I resolved to use every spare moment to bring it to life. Setting up my old easel in the corner of the living room, I transformed the space into a makeshift studio. Brushes, tubes of paint, and palettes cluttered the floor. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I stood there, staring at the blank canvas, feeling a mix of determination and trepidation. This had to be something worthy of Hannah's refined tastes. I had barely begun sketching when Elena wandered into the room. Her small face lit up at the sight of the mess I'd made, an explosion of colors, brushes, and potential. "What's all this, Mommy?" she asked, her voice full of wonder as she poked at a hardened paintbrush. "It's a birthday present for someone your daddy works with," I said, bending down to sweep stray pencils into a pile. "Can I help?" she asked eagerly, picking up a crusty brush and holding it like a wand. "Yes," I replied, smiling despite myself. "Let's make it special together." Her eyes sparkled with excitement as I handed her a clean brush, but her joy quickly turned to confusion. "But why can't Daddy just buy something? Like he always does?" I hesitated. How could I explain to a 7-year-old the nuances of our financial situation or the growing divide in my marriage? Instead, I gently nudged her toward the couch. "Why don't you watch your cartoons for now? I need a little time to think." She muttered something under her breath, a habit she had clearly inherited from me, before scampering off. Her retreat left me alone with the quiet hum of the house and the daunting blankness of the canvas. The days blurred together as I juggled my roles, mother by day, artist by night. Each evening, after putting Elena to bed, would return to my easel, painting long into the quiet hours. Slowly, the canvas transformed into something raw and deeply personal, an abstract reflection of the chaos, love, and longing that filled my life. The brushstrokes mirrored my emotions, each layer telling a story I couldn't put into words. Luke remained a distant figure, his silence stretching across the days like an unspoken accusation. There were no calls, no texts, no check-ins. He was consumed by his world of deals and deadlines, while I poured myself into a project he didn't even know about. Elena, however, was my constant. She would tiptoe into the room during my painting sessions, her curiosity pulling her to my side. "You're really good, Mommy," she said on the 4th day, her voice soft with admiration. "You should draw more." Her words melted something inside me. It was the kindest critique I'd ever received, and for the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to feel proud. "Maybe I will," I whispered, ruffling her hair. On the eve of the celebration, the painting was finally complete. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest, a labor of love that carried pieces of me in every corner. Sleep eluded me that night. My mind raced with fears. What if Hannah hated it? What if Luke dismissed it as a waste of time? The morning arrived in a blaze of sunlight, as if mocking my anxiety. I wrapped the painting carefully in plain brown paper, tying it with a ribbon I'd borrowed from Elena's hair. It was a humble package for something so deeply personal. Holding it close, I made my way to the birthday celebration, nerves twisting in my stomach. The party was a sea of polished smiles and elegant dresses, the kind of crowd that thrived on perfection. I kept my eyes low, trying to blend into the background, but it was impossible. Luke was there, freshly returned from a business trip, radiating his usual aura of success. His gaze skimmed over the room before landing on me. His expression darkened, his jaw tightening as his eyes fell on the package in my hands. "What's that?" he demanded, his tone sharp enough to draw a few glances. "It's a gift," I said quietly. "My painting." His eyes narrowed, and I braced myself. "A painting? You're kidding, right?" I shook my head, clutching the package tighter. "I thought it would be meaningful." "Meaningful?" His voice rose, loud enough to draw attention. "You actually think it's appropriate to give her this amateur piece?" "Luke, please," I whispered, glancing around at the curious faces turning toward us. My cheeks burned with humiliation, but he didn't stop. "Did you lose your mind?" he barked. "Do you have any idea how this makes us look?" The room froze. Conversations halted mid-sentence as all eyes turned to us. I felt my world shrink under the weight of their stares. Luke's face was a deep, angry red, his voice carrying an edge of venom that left no doubt about his feelings. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I stood there, clutching my painting like a lifeline, silently praying for the ground to swallow me whole.